It's important to note here that what Rossi calls the autonomy of architecture, architecture on its own, so to speak, appears as an aesthetic and technical solution to a problem that's neither aesthetic nor technological, but is historical. Rossi understands architecture as the material actualization of spirit, as the kind of manifestation of the human community's wish and desire to organize itself and represent itself. Listen to how Rossi thinks of spirit's appearance in architecture. The monument, having overcome its relation to history, becomes geography. Perhaps is not the light that creates shadows the same light that consumes matter, giving us a more authentic image of that which artists themselves want to give us. For this, more than because it's personal and collective at once, architecture is the most important of the arts and sciences, for its cycle is natural, like the cycle of man. Let me read that again and unpack it. The monument, having overcome its relation to history, becomes geography. So architecture, for Rossi, emerges in history, but it shows forth something that's beyond history, something more universal. But just as quickly as it's shown that forth, it also leaves its status as art and it moves back into the earth. It becomes geography. And then, Rossi, perhaps is not the light that creates the shadows the same light that consumes matter, giving us a more authentic image of that which artists themselves want to give us. It seems here that for Rossi, art is beyond the natural. Art is more authentic than nature itself. But art has a destructive force, this idea that the light that consumes matter, and that destructive force gives it a way of moving beyond nature, of superseding nature. And then he says, for this, more than because it's personal and collective at once, architecture is the most important of sciences, for its cycle is natural, like the cycle of man, but it is what remains of man. Now, this last sentence, this is what remains of man, is highly ambiguous. Think again of the cemetery, the city of the dead. It's quite literally where the remains of human individuals have been placed. But at the same time, the architecture of the cemetery diagrams human patterns of existence, human activities, and human values, and it also outlives humans. Architecture is what remains of man. Look at this drawing that Rossi made late in his career. It's entitled in German and Italian, Diese ist lange her, ora questo è perduto. This is long ago, and now this is past. It gives you a sense, again, of architecture not just continuing in time, but of architecture lingering beyond its rightful passing. It's architecture remaining after it should have ended, after its legitimacy and maybe even its need or its representational power has ended. But what's important about Rossi's project, I think, is that not that architecture has an end or architecture is coming to an end, but that architecture has installed the kernel of history in its very core. Architecture doesn't come to an end because architecture exists in time. It unfolds in time. Architecture is what remains of man.